Hey everybody, I just wanted to drop in and basically talk a little bit about what's going on. Um, Nothing really major going on, nothing earth shattering or anything like that. I had to put off some things because work and a few other things. Um, I mentioned the other day I was going to start a 100 chapters in 100 days project. Uh, I decided to wait on that maybe a week or two before I commit to starting that to kind of give myself a chance to really focus on what I want to do with that. So we'll go from there at that time. I'm probably going to do it on the 15th because it just makes sense on the 15th to do it. So we'll go from there. Um, the watch alongs I'll probably start tomorrow. I meant to do them last week, but had some issues with the internet and all that, so I didn't really like what I was seeing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tape the watch along, and either I'm going to watch it on my tablet or download it on my tablet first, and then watch it, and then from there go from that, do it that way. um, I'm just really, really tired right now. It was a long day at work. Not the easiest day at work, I must say, but I don't really want to go into that. But it is what it is. Um, Not really a whole lot going on. Uh, there's It just amazes me that what happened last night in Atlanta with LeBron James interacting with the courtside fan, which I was kind of surprised they even allow courtside fans, even though I kind of know why they do it, because they want to make up the money they've been losing for not even having any fans. Um, the interaction, for those of you who may not have known, was a female person, and a female in the courtside. Apparently, her husband had been jawing with LeBron James. LeBron James turned back and said something, and the woman basically went a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, as the old saying goes, and she wound up being ejected. And it was basically the reason that she was ejected, I believe, had less to do with the fact she was jawing with LeBron, with the fact that she had actually lowered her mask to do that, and that's a no-no in these wonderful days of COVID. So yeah, but it's a funny little thing. But I'm surprised they even allow courtside seats during all of this, because it just seems like it's way too risky right now to do anything like that. Especially considering the fact that, um, the people at courtside may actually have it and lie about it and give it to a player. And next thing you know, yeah, that's really risky. I really think they should do more to protect the players and such, and also to protect the fans. Um, I think that you might very well see that where there's a plexiglass barrier between the fans and the players to make sure there is no interaction between the two. Because it's not just the players out there. You've got the referees, you've got arena officials, game officials, whatnot, um, and arena workers there. So that has to be in consideration as well. Um, Nothing else really. I see there's Marilyn Manson got uh, accused of sexual assault by his ex-girlfriend, Evan Rachel Wood, doesn't really surprise me because he's kind of had a history of stuff like that with other people. And, yeah, it's come back to haunt him. Um, and I remember back when Marilyn Manson was like the big thing, and people were comparing him to Satan, and they were banning middle schoolers from wearing his shirt and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, you're just making him cooler in their eyes. And I remember the South Park episode about their version of the Pokemon thing, where the parents realized the way to make the kids think their version of Pokemon wasn't cool is to actually start liking it themselves. Well, you probably would have had that happen if you started seeing mom and daddy wearing, and teachers wearing, and principals wearing Marilyn Manson shirts and such. You'd be surprised. It might have actually worked. It's kind of crazy, though, when I think about it. But anyhow, I got 2 days off work. I'm going to have to redo some stuff in the studio here to make it look a little better. And actually, I don't really like the way it looks right now, so I'm probably going to take some stuff, move it around a bit. But everything looks like it's doing all right. So, be honest with you, the reason I'm doing this podcast is just to kill some time, because I got a Zoom meeting at 7 o'clock I got to do, which I'm looking forward to about as much as going to the dentist and having them yank my teeth out. Yeah, I don't want to go into it. Let's just say the reasons for it are not exactly reasons I think that are really that smart. And this is something I like to say a lot, is that I learned a long time ago a nice little phrase back in college that makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways. Keep it simple, stupid. You know? Make sure you have all your eggs in a row and all of that, and make sure you prepare properly. And don't get caught. Don't just freak out and make a decision without thinking about the ramifications of the decision. And a lot of places, not just workplaces, a lot of places, especially during this COVID thing, freak out and make a decision without thinking about the ramifications and all the possibilities. This is something I think that we don't do enough of, is when we make a decision, not just at work and in our lives, whatever, is to really think about the pros and cons of the decision, to do the old cost-benefit analysis. As I read once in a book, they called it, and I just call it that because it makes sense. Too many people make impulsive decisions thinking that they got to make that decision now. When it comes to a really big decision, especially finances and all that, don't rush into it. Do your research, whether it's buying a car, buying a house, getting married, having kids, changing careers, whatnot. Make sure you do your research, because if you don't, you could very well be making a very big mistake. You know, there are times you go with your gut, and there's times when you go with your brains. And the brains require doing research and doing your due diligence, as the old saying goes. What else can I talk about here? I do think we're going to see the coronavirus probably stay with us for the rest of the year, unless we see some major improvements in vaccine distribution. I just don't see. I was kind of hopeful, and then we've had some setbacks. It's the thing that really bugs me about all of this is the fact that we should have been better prepared for this. We should have had a better, you know, this should have been a unifying thing. Like after 9/11, it should have been a unifying thing. That we're all into this together. If we sacrifice right now, listen to the doctors and all that, and take their advice and come together and help each other out and just follow their advice, we would have been done with this. Unfortunately, we had leaders who wanted to ignore this, call it a hoax, downplay it, and then they wanted to rush things back open again because instead of taking the advice such and doing what was really necessary to get through this, and now we're finding out that it's biting us in the butt, and now we're still deciding about additional help if we had thought about this and really made the preparations for something, and I hear some of you say, got something on my tongue. I hear some of you say, well, you can't prepare for something like this. Yeah, you're supposed to. And actually, we had the mechanism for it. It's just the last president decided to get rid of it for foolish reasons that had little to do with money and more to do with the fact that it was his predecessor that actually started it, which actually was originally started by that guy's predecessor. And what I mean is it was Bush that started it, and Obama improved upon it, which is the pandemic response team, and Trump, unfortunately, which a lot of people tend to forget, Trump basically got rid of it because in his thinking, why would you have people around if nothing's really going on? Well, with something like that, if there's nothing going on, you're preparing for them for the possibility that something is going on. It's like with firefighters. You don't have any fire, you still have firefighters on duty. Why? Because there's always a chance there could be a fire. If there's no fires, they're working on their engines, they're working on their equipment, they're working on other things. They're prepared for it. That's why you have people in that position, so that when something does happen, they're ready to go. And when nothing is going on, they're preparing for when it possibly could happen. But for some reason, the previous administration did not want to listen to that and just gutted the program, and now we're here, And I think that in the final analysis, that will be a very damning decision indeed. But that's just me. Some of us actually remember our history and listen to it and remember it. But it is what it is. What else was I going to talk about? I got about 15 minutes before I got to go into this silly Zoom meeting, which it kind of bugs me because if you're doing something for work, you should get paid for it. We're not getting paid for it. It's not going to last that long. And I believe I should get paid for it. Even if it's 10, 15 minutes, I should get paid for it. I'm taking time out of my off work schedule to do something like this. I should get paid for it. If I'm, that's just me. I don't mean to be a pain in the butt, but, anyhow, it's going to be very cold the next few days. I think all through next week. And I've mentioned this before here. I don't like winter anymore. Now, 30 years ago, I loved winter. I was one of those, dare I say, fools that would go out, jump around in the cold, and, go outside in shorts and t-shirts, when it was like really, really, really cold. And act like I was some sort of badass, but not anymore. Yeah, it's getting cold, my joints hurt, and it sucks. We had a little bit of snow, maybe an inch, more likely a trace on Saturday. And it was one of those snows that I actually kind of like because it goes away very quickly. It doesn't really stay on the roads because some of us actually need to go to work. And, if there's ice on the roads, yeah, I'm not risking my neck for any job. That's not how I play games, But anyhow, that reminds me of past blizzards and such that, the youth love snow. I think the older you get, the more you dread it because you understand that A, you got to get out in it, either to go to work or go to the store or whatnot, and B, the cold doesn't do so well with your joints and aches and pains and all of that. So that's kind of a pain in the butt. But anyhow, what else was I going to say? I'm just chilling right now. For those of you, I'm not expecting anybody to actually listen to this whole thing, but that's sort of like I mentioned earlier, the writing thing I'm probably going to do in a couple of weeks. Start that on the 15th and go from there. I thought about doing it starting this on yesterday, but some things came up and I just really wasn't feeling it. And yes, I know I'm getting behind on my resolutions and such, but who also doesn't who among us does not complete their New Year's resolutions and all of that? So, but I'm doing my best at it. God, I need a haircut. At least we can go to barbershops now. Oh, God. They're actually going to open up. The governor today actually talked about opening up schools again. And I think that's sort of the plan. Here's my talk. Here's my thing. I think that if your kid is immunized, if they've got, if your kid, let's vaccinate the teachers first. Make sure they're all vaccinated. They've had their 2 shots. They're ready to go. And then you slowly bring the kids that are able to go in there, that are healthy enough to, or are in a situation where there's really no other choice. You got to be careful. Basically, what I would do is any kid that has parents that can actually keep their kids at home, strongly encourage them to do so. Yes, I know it sucks right now because, I could imagine back when I was a kid, 40 years ago, having to go through something like this, and it would have been a disaster 40 years ago without the internet and all that. You would have had to pick up lesson plans every single week and made sure your kids did their homework, did their work and all of that. And there would have been a lot of cheating. A lot of cheating, But it has definitely, this has shown a lot of iniquities. And we're going to have to deal with those iniquities once this is all said and done, because they ain't going away. And one of the big iniquities is areas where there is not great internet coverage or internet internet coverage is too expensive for regular families. I live in an area that barely has DSL. And, you know, we're one of those rural counties that really needs better internet. We've only got actually two major providers. Well, three if you count Skyrunner. There's AT&T, and then there's what used to be called Northland Cable, now is Vive Broadband. And Vive Broadband basically is concentrated on the three main towns in the county: Rutherford, Spindale, and Forest City. And they do go outside of it a little bit, but not as far as they should, in my opinion. And you know, I'm not a huge Elon Musk fan, but I do hope the Starlink thing comes up, because if that happens and you can get really good internet speeds, it would be really nice to just cut AT&T out of all this. And that would be fantastic, in my humble opinion. And also today they did another test of the Starship launch. I watched the highlights of it. Actually watched the whole thing on YouTube, and yeah, had another issue with landing. 8 crashed, and now 9's crashed. And this time I think they couldn't get the ship back over in time to land straight down. Now, you know, this is probably going to freak some people out, but this is not exactly that unknown in rocket science, you know. They launched it, and it got to the point where it almost landed, but didn't. You know, they've got to fix how they're going to do the landing. And I think the same problem they had last time, it creeped up again this time, which was they didn't have the pumps going in time to actually right the ship to actually land it properly. But that's me. They'll figure it out. Makes me kind of wish I'd gone into aerospace, but that's another. To kind of give you a little bit of old history, once upon a time, long, long ago, I briefly considered going into the Air Force to specifically go into the branch that had to deal with the space program. Yep. Only problem was bad legs, bad knees, wasn't going to make it. So anyhow, I wanted to come on here, just run my mouth a little bit, and kind of think some things out a little bit. This is an audio journal, basically, an audio blog. And kill some time before I got to do this silly Zoom meeting. And then, after that Zoom meeting's over with, don't know. I really don't know yet. And we'll see what happens. But anyhow, I will talk to you nice folks later. Take it easy. Good night. Good luck. And may the good news be yours.